Hello everyone, this is Vaishnavi from Edureka and I welcome you all to this interesting session on JUnit tutorial. But before we begin, let's take a quick look at the agenda for today's module. First of all, I'll start off with what is JUnit and talk about the advantages of it. And then we'll discuss about the major features of JUnit and take a look at the JUnit framework. Moving further to the discussion, we'll take a look at how to set up JUnit on your system and try to run a simple JUnit program. Moving ahead, we'll also take a look at the JUnit annotations, JUnit assert statements, and also exceptions in JUnit. And then discuss about the parameterized test that takes place in JUnit, and finally wrap up this session by pointing out the major differences between JUnit and TestNG. I hope the agenda was clear to you guys. And I also suggest you to subscribe to Edureka channel to never miss out any updates on trending technologies. So let's get started. What is JUnit? JUnit is an open source unit testing framework for Java. It is important in development of test-driven frameworks and is also considered as an instance of XUnit architecture. As the name suggests, it is used for testing a small chunk of code or a unit. Now you might ask a question. What is JUnit? JUnit is used to verify a small chunk of code by creating a path, function, or a method. The term unit existed even before the object-oriented era was created. It is basically a natural abstraction of an object-oriented system, that is the Java class or object. JUnit basically promotes the idea of test first, code later. So this is about JUnit. Now let's take a quick look at the advantages of JUnit. JUnit is one of the best testing frameworks that can be selected for an efficient testing process. More application developer IDEs include JUnit. It also provides an AWT and swing-based graphical test reporting mechanism. It also provides a text-based command line. The open source community has extended JUnit by implementing a JUnit Enterprise Edition test framework that enables it to test within the application service container. JUnit is widely adopted by many organizations around the world for performing unit testing in Java programming language. JUnit has also become a benchmark for testing in Java and is supported by almost all the IDEs. So this is about what is JUnit and what are its advantages. Now let's move ahead and take a look at the features of JUnit. JUnit tests allows you to write codes faster, which increases quality. It is elegantly simple as it is less complex and takes less time to test an application. It provides annotations to identify the test methods. It provides test runners for running the tests. These tests can be run automatically on JUnit and they will check with their own results and provide immediate feedback. The test cases can be run automatically on JUnit and they check their own results by providing immediate feedback. There is really no need to manually comb through a report of the test results. Okay, so this is one of the major features of JUnit. JUnit tests can also be organized into test suites containing all the test cases. This also helps in showing test progress in a bar that is green if the test is running smoothly and it turns red when the test case fails. Okay, so these are some of the major notable features of JUnit. Now let's move ahead and take a look at the JUnit framework. JUnit is a regression testing framework which is used to implement unit testing in Java to accelerate programming speed and increase the quality of code. This framework also allows quick and easy generation of test data and test cases. Now let's discuss the major features of this JUnit test framework. They are namely test fixtures, test suites, test runners, and JUnit classes. Now let's get to know them in detail. A fixture is a fixed state of a set of objects which is used as a baseline for running the test cases. The major purpose of a test fixture is to ensure that there is a well-known and fixed environment in which the tests are run so that the results are repeatable. There are basically two methods under this test fixture. They are namely setup method and teardown method. Setup method is run before the test invocation. The annotation at before is used in this case. And in this case, we use the annotation at after. Let's understand test fixtures with an example. In case you write a code without annotations, the code is not readable, it is not easy to maintain, and when the test suite is complex, the code might contain some logical errors. So these are the issues that you'll be facing if you don't use annotations while testing an application. But when you compare the same code using JUnit, the code is far more readable and maintainable, and the code structure is way too simple and easy to understand. Okay, so this is how test fixtures play a major role in testing an application using JUnit. Now let's move ahead and understand test suites. If you want to execute multiple test cases in a specific order, it can be done by combining all the test cases in a single origin. This origin is called the test suites. A test suite bundles a few unit test cases and then runs them together. To run the test suite, you need to annotate a class using these annotations, that is at run with, at suite classes, or at suite.suite classes. Okay, so these are the annotations that you have to do when you want to test a suite. Now let's talk about a test runner. The test runner is used for executing the test cases. JUnit provides a tool for the execution of the test cases. JUnit core class is used in order to execute the tests. Another important method called run classes is provided by JUnit runner.JUnit core, which is used to run one or several test cases. The return type of this method is the result object that is used to access information about the test cases. You can get this result object in the following link. So this is about the test runner. Now let's talk about JUnit classes. JUnit classes are used in writing and testing JUnits. Some of the important classes are Assert, Test Case, Test Result. Okay. Now let's talk about Assert. It contains a set of assert methods. We'll discuss what are these assert methods in a coming section. Test case. It contains the test case that defines the fixture to run multiple test cases. Test result. It contains methods in order to collect the result of executing a test case. Okay, so this is everything you need to know about the JUnit framework. Now let's move ahead to our next topic and understand how to set up JUnit on your system. Like I mentioned earlier, JUnit framework is used to test Java-based application. So before installing JUnit, you need to configure and verify Java Development Kit, that is JDK, in your system. So the first thing you need to do is have the Java libraries in your system. If you don't have the Java libraries, follow these steps to complete your Java installation. Go to the Java downloads page and click on the option for Java platform, that is JDK. In the next page, do select the Accept License Agreement radio button, accept it and click the download link against your matching system configuration. Now to cross-check the installation, just run the following command in the command prompt. It should display the installed version of Java in your system. As I already have Java installed in my system, I'm just going to verify if it exists or not. So I'm going to go to command prompt, type Java space hyphen version. So the version that I have in my system is 1.8. You can also download any version of your choice. The latest version is 12, and this command can vary from one OS to another. For Windows, we use this command, that is java-version. For Linux, you use $java-version. For Mac, you just have to click on tilde $Java version. Okay. You can run the installer once the download is completed and do follow this correct instructions. So first go to System and go to Advanced System Settings. Yeah. So it pops up environment variables here. Just click on the environment variables and click on New and add this command. So I've already added the command here. So the specific location of this JUnit will be stored in my C drive. And the variable name that I'm going to provide is JUnit_home. This is a must when you're working on JUnit. Click on OK. And do note, you need to add the class path accordingly. So I'll again click on New. So the variable value will be percentage class path provided by the percentage as well. That is a closing thing. And JUnit home and slash the JUnit that you're working on, that is version 4. Okay. And the variable name would be class path. Click on OK, click on OK, and click on OK. So this is how you set up JUnit on your system. It is just like how you set up Java on your system for the first time. Now, once you understood how to set up JUnit on your system, we need an IDE in order to perform the actions. I'll be considering working on the Eclipse IDE because it is user friendly and all the available jar files can be easily downloaded in Eclipse. And preferably, if you're working on Java projects, I would recommend you to use Eclipse IDE. If you're new to JUnit and you don't know how to set up Eclipse on your system, I'll be putting up link in the description below. Just click on it and understand how to install Eclipse on your system. As I already have Eclipse IDE here, I'm just going to open it. Yeah, so this is the Eclipse workspace. Now, in order to work on JUnit, first thing you need to do is create a new project. So I'm going to go to new and go to project. And I'm going to name this JUnit project and click on finish. Yeah, you can see that a folder is being created under which the Java libraries reside and a source field where we'll write our code. Okay, so the next thing you need to do after you create a project is to add the libraries, that is JUnit libraries. So I'm going to right click on my project, go to build path and go to configure build path. Here you have to add the external JUnit jar files that you have to download. So I already have the JUnit jar file, so I'm going to just go to add external jars. I'm going to search for JUnit. Yeah, so I'm just going to add this. And then I'm going to add a library, that is JUnit library, to my program. How do you get this thing? One way which you can get this is you can go to the Eclipse market space and search for JUnit. You can install an external plugin from there. Okay, click on next and click on finish. You can see that JUnit library is added here. So I'm just going to click on apply and close. Yeah. So the JUnit jar files are added to your system. So these are the following steps you need to follow in order to set up JUnit on your system. Now that you've understood how to set up JUnit on your system, let's move ahead and learn how to write a simple JUnit program. So in order to write a simple program, I'm going to right click on the source field, go to new and create a new package. I'm going to name this as code.edureka and click on finish. I'm going to be writing my entire program under this package. So I'm going to create a new class in order to write it. I'm going to name it as JUnit class and click on finish. Yeah. You can see that a class of the name provided, that is JUnit class, is created here. And the first thing I'm going to do after creating the class is add the annotation test. And then I'm going to be creating a new method here, that is public void setup, under which I'm going to print a string. A string I'm going to be considering as str. And I'll print this is my first JUnit program. Okay. And then I'm going to be using the assert method in order to compare if the two sentences are equal or not. So assert equals, and I'm going to be writing the exact same thing, that is, this is my first JUnit program, comma, specify the string. So first I'll be importing the packages. This is, okay, this assert equals. Yeah. Once this is imported, I'm just going to run this. So I'll just click on run here. And you can verify that JUnit was set up in 0 seconds. Okay. So this is how you verify if your JUnit program is successfully installed in your system or your project or not. Now, next up, I'll create another class to execute this test. So I'm going to right click on my project and go to new class. I'm going to name this as demo class, add the main function and finish. Here, I'm going to be writing the corresponding code in order to access the JUnit class. Okay, so first I'll create the result and create an object of result that is equal to JUnit core dot run classes, where I'll be storing in the form of a result. You can already find it. Just click on this, and the class name is the previous name of the class, that is the JUnit class. Okay, I hope you're clear with this. It'll ask us to import. Yeah. So you have three options here for import. Check which one is suitable. We're using JUnit runner, so I'll be importing the JUnit runner packages. So here as well, let's see what it throws an error here. Okay, it is asking us to create a new class or interface. Okay, let me see what mistake I've done here. Yeah, so the name is JUnit, and I've used uppercase for U. JUnit is case sensitive and class. Okay, and I'm going to be checking for a condition for failure, creating an object of the same failure, and check the result of get failures. Okay, so it returns the results in the form of a list. Okay, so I'll just import this failure packages. Yeah, done. And I'm going to be writing the corresponding code inside this. So I'm going to consider printing it first, system.out.println. In this, I'm going to be printing failure dot toString. Okay, so this basically helps in printing the results which are failed. And after this, I'm going to print another statement, that is system.out.println, where I'm going to be writing result is equal to, and specify the result location, that is result dot was successful. Okay, so this prints the test case which was successful. Now let's try running this program. Save it and run. Yeah, so it prints the result is true. Now, how is the result true? It checks for the condition for failure. The result is get failures. And if this condition satisfies, it is going to print the failure string, that is the failed string. In case if it is true, it prints this particular command, that is result is equal to. So this is how you test an application or test a program using JUnit. Now that you've learned how to write a simple JUnit program, let's understand the TestNG annotations. JUnit Framework is built on annotations. An annotation is a special form of syntactic metadata that can be added to a Java source code for better code readability. These annotations provide the information regarding the methods that are going to be run before and after the test methods, the methods that are run before and after all the methods are completed, the methods or classes that will be ignored during the test execution. Okay, so these are the following list of annotations that we have. That is test, before, before class, after class, and ignore. Okay, now let's understand them in detail. Annotations start with the letter at. Okay, so this test annotation tells JUnit that the public void method can be run as a test case. Now let's talk about before. This helps in annotating a public void method with annotation before, which causes the method to be run before each test method. Okay, so this method is called before you execute any test case. What about after? If you allocate external resources in a before method, you need to release them after the test runs. So one way to do that is annotate the method with at after, which causes that method to be run after the execution of the test method. Talking about before class, this method helps in annotating a public static void main with at before class, which causes it to be run once before any of the test methods in the classes are run. Talking about after class, this will perform the method after all the test cases are run. This is used to perform cleanup activities as well. Talking about the ignore annotation. This annotation is used to ignore the test that will not be executed. This is also used in order to skip the test cases. Okay. So these are the annotations that you need to be perfect when you're working with JUnit. Now let's move ahead and understand what are the assert statements that are available in JUnit. Assert is a method which is used in determining pass or fail status of a test case. In JUnit, all the assertions are in the assert class. So this class basically provides a set of assertion methods which are useful for writing the test cases. Do note that only failed assertions are recorded. So there are different methods under this assert command. We have 8 assert statements in total. Let's take a look at them one by one. The first method is void assert equals, which is of the form boolean expected and boolean actual. So this basically checks if the two primitives or objects are equal. Okay. Next we have void assert true, which takes in the condition boolean true or false. So this basically checks whether the condition is true. Next we have assert false, which also takes in the boolean condition and it checks whether the condition is false. Next we have assert not null, which checks whether an object isn't null. Void assert null, which checks whether an object is null. Okay. Do note that not null is used to check whether an object isn't null. To check whether an object is null, you use assert null, okay, which takes in the object. Next up, we have assert same, which compares two of the references. So this assert same method tests if two object references point to the same object. Assert not same checks whether the two object references do not point to the same object or not. Last, we have assert array equal. So this is similar to assert equals, just that you'll check two arrays instead of two objects. Okay. So this assert array equals method will test whether two arrays are equal to each other or not. Let's take a quick look at the example for this. So I'll create another class under this package. Assert. Click on finish. Yeah. Under this, I'm going to be writing the corresponding commands. The first thing I'll do is create an annotation of test and add public void test assertion. Yeah. Under which I'm going to test the data. So the first one will be of the form string str equals. So I'm going to create a new string and give this a text. I'm going to be giving Edureka or edu. Yeah, this is fine. I'm going to provide another string and name it str1 so that you can differentiate the two strings. I'm going to create another string, give this as the same, edu. Now, once you've provided the input for the first two strings, let's consider the next strings. So the next string which I would like to write would be, so I'm going to instantiate the string command to null. Okay. And then I'm going to create another string and instantiate it to the value that is specified here, that is edu. Okay. So two of them have the same values, but one string would be considered as null. I'm going to create another string str4. Even this will be edu. And the next thing I'll do is provide two integer numbers in order to create an array. So I'm going to be writing int value is equal to 5. I'm going to be giving it as 5. Next, I'll give another value 1 or 2. I'm going to be naming it as 1, 6. After you input the values, which is of the form integer, I'm going to be creating an array of the form string. So string array, and I'm going to create an object of this, that is expected array is equal to, in the flower braces, I'm going to be writing 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is the expected array which I want to compare it with. And the result array would be the same. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this thing and paste it over here. Okay. So that the expected array and the result array are the same. Now let's check if the two objects are equal. So I'm going to be using the assert method in this case. So I'm going to write assert equals string and string1. Yeah. and it throws up an error. It says create a method. Let me just fix this first. Import the TestNG libraries. Yeah. And assert equals, it'll state and static import JUnit methods. Done. And once you've done checking if the two objects are equal, let's check for another condition for the true condition. So check for true. And I'm going to be writing assert true, and I'm going to be providing value less than value 1. So this basically checks whether the condition is true or not. So I'm going to import the static true. And after you've done checking for the true condition, let's try to check the false condition as well. Check for false, that is assert false. And I'm going to provide the same condition, that is value less than value 1. I'll import this as well. Now, once you're done checking if the condition is true or false and also if it is equal or not, let's check for the null condition. Check for null. So assert not null will have the first string. Now let's check if it is null. So assert null. I'm going to be taking the second string which I've mentioned here as null. You can see that I've declared this as null. So I'm going to be considering writing string 2 and import this as well. So once you've done this, let's also check if two object references point to the same object. Okay, so we've already come across this assert statement, that is assert same. So I'm going to write a comment here, that is check if the reference is to the same object. Okay, and I'm going to write assert same, and I'm going to be comparing string 3 and string 4. I'm going to import the assert same packages. Done. So now let's try to run this program. So it says the assertion took place in 0.20 seconds. Okay. Now let's try writing the main function in order to run this. So I'm going to create a new class and call it main class. Include the public static void main and finish. I'm going to be writing the code here. So now I've called this class as main class, and I'm going to be writing result, create an object of the same, is equal to JUnit core dot class. That is the name of the class that we want to search for. That is run classes. So the name of the class that we had before was assert class. So assert dot class. Done. So we need to import the result packages. Do note that you import JUnit runner packages. And after this, I'm going to be considering the same for loop here for the condition failure. Create an object of it, that is failure is the result of get failures, which returns it in the form of a list. I'm going to be importing the failure functions. I'm going to create this and print failure dot toString. So this helps in printing the failed string, or I'm going to be printing the result dot was successful. So this will print the test case which was successfully executed. Okay, save this and run this program. So the output of this is the test assertion dot assert is null. Okay, now let's take a look at our assert program here. When we've provided this particular command, it says assert null string 2. So this condition is true, so it will be printing null. Now let's run this program. It says test assertions co.edureka.assert is null and the result is false. So it is printing that the test case has failed. So or else it would have printed that the test result was successful and it would have printed that the result is true. Now let's take a look at our assert program. So we've provided the first and the second string to be equal. So first thing it checks for equal command is string and string1. So this basically checks between the two strings, that is string and string1, if they are equal or not. They're equal, you can see that it is equal. And it also checks for assert true function where we've provided two values and checks if the condition is true. So the value is 5. 5 is less than 6, so it is true. For false, value is less than value 1. So this does not print false because value is less than value 1. That is 5 is less than 6. So this is true. Okay. So this will not print false. Now talking about not null. String, we've provided the value of the string which has the string edu. This is not null. So this will return true. Talking about assert null, it has a value of string2 which we've provided to be null. So even this will return true. At the same time, we are going to be comparing the same function, that is assert same, between the two strings 3 and 4, wherein they possess the same string which is edu. Now talking about the main class, you can see that there is printing false. Okay, so that means your test case has failed. So let's analyze how you can solve this problem. Let's go to our assert function and take off all these static equals method. Okay, the import methods that we've had, which is of the form static, let's take all of them out and import the package which says JUnit assert. This is actually way too simple because you have all the assert statement commands inside this. So I'm going to just import this, done, and then add a few commands here. So I'll be writing another command to check if it is not same or not. So assert not same string1, that is string comma string1. So this basically checks if string and string1 are same or not. Next we have to check the array. So assert array equals. So we were basically checking for the arrays here. So the name we provided here was expected array and the result array. So the expected array would be expected array and the result array. Okay. So this is done. So I'm just going to save this and run my main class. Now you'll see if the result is true or false. It says false again. Now it is printing false again. This is because that a condition that is specified here for false is not true. Okay. So this says value is less than value 1, which means it is true. So we have to provide a condition which says it is not true. So it is greater than value 1. That is 5 greater than 6 will throw up an error which says false. Now let's save it and run the main function. It will print true. So this is how assert statements in JUnit works. Now let's move ahead and understand what are the exceptions that occur during the execution of a program. JUnit provides an option of tracing the exceptions that occur in the code. You can test whether the code throws the desired exception or not. And the expected parameter is used along with the test annotation. Okay. So while testing for an exception, you need to ensure that the exception class that you're providing in that optional parameter of the test annotation is the same. This is because you are expecting an exception from the method that you're testing. Otherwise, the JUnit test would fail. Okay. For example, at test expected illegal argument exception.class. So this is an exception. So by using the expected parameter, you can specify the exception name that your test may throw. So you will get this illegal argument exception, which will be thrown by the test case if a developer tries to use an argument which is not permitted. Okay. So this is one of the notable exceptions that occur during the execution of a process in JUnit. Now let's take a look at the parameterized test in JUnit. JUnit 4 has introduced a new feature called Parameterize Test. This test allows the developer to run the same test over and over again using different values. So you have a few steps in order to create the parameterized steps. Let's take a look at how it is done. So you need to first annotate the test with run with. This mainly specifies that it is a parameterized test. Then create a public static method annotated with parameters that returns a collection of objects in the form of an array as test data set. Moving ahead, create a public constructor that takes in what is equivalent to one row of the test data. Create an instance variable for each and every column of test data. And also create your test cases using the instance variable as the source of the test data. Okay, so that's it about parameterized test. Now let's take a look at the final topic, that is JUnit versus TestNG. TestNG and JUnit both are well-known terminologies when you talk about software testing frameworks. TestNG is almost similar to JUnit except for certain functionalities. So I'll be comparing JUnit and TestNG based on their features. So the major features I'll be considering to compare JUnit and TestNG are the suit test, annotation support, ignore test, execution before all the test cases in a suit, dependency test, and parameterized tests. So let's compare them based on the suit test. JUnit and TestNG both consists of the suit test, that is the annotation suit, okay? And it also possesses the annotation support through both JUnit and TestNG. Ignore test in the case of JUnit is specified using the command @ignore, whereas in TestNG you use a command called @test enable false, okay? So in TestNG, you'll specify if the enable is true or false. Okay. Now talking about the execution before and after all the test cases in the suit, JUnit does not execute before and after the suit. Whereas TestNG provides commands like before suit, after suit, before test, and after test. Talking about the dependency test, JUnit does not support dependency test. Whereas using TestNG, you can perform dependency tests. Now talking about the parameterized test. Parameterized test in JUnit can be done using the annotation run with and parameter. Whereas in TestNG, the parameterized tests can be carried out using the annotation data provider. Okay. So this is everything you need to know about JUnit if you are a beginner. So with this, we come to the end of this session on JUnit tutorial. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about software testing, its methodologies, its types, and many more, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for notifications on latest technologies. That's it from my end for today, guys. If you have any queries regarding this topic, don't forget to comment your queries on the comment section below. Thank you for watching this video. Happy learning!
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!